Hi, I wanted to make a video in regards to M-B draft, the Champions draft that we're still in, and my concerns regarding just almost every draft that I've seen of M-B have really educated me that people do not know what they're doing in a mega format when doing a VGC draft. So I wanted to discuss it and just make sure that I get my views across for anybody who's looking for them. Just in this video, I'm going to be telling you why getting a mega early is generally a bad thing to do, which megas, if you are going to do it, will open you up, and which ones will make your life harder, which non-megas are good for making it so you can get a good mega in the future and not feel bad about it, and what you should be doing with your first pick. On screen here, I have what is a potential draft, especially if I was someone who was in every draft seat. Note, there's only 4 megas drafted in the first round, 2 in the second round. That's probably less than you're going to see in most drafts, as they are the centerpiece of your team. A lot of drafting information comes from the experience that people, including myself, have with fantasy football, and it took a very long time for people to understand what I'm going to call the Patrick Mahomes problem. Patrick Mahomes, for nerds who aren't familiar or for people who aren't American, is considered the best quarterback for, say, the last decade once Tom Brady retired. And in fantasy, he goes in, say, the fourth or fifth round. And people who don't know what they're doing will take him in the first or second round. And why is that? And the answer is scarcity. In the NFL, there's 32 teams, and you only need one quarterback. And the first quarterback, the best quarterbacks, are not that different from the second quarterbacks. Compared to the running backs and the wide receivers, you need three of them, and the first running back is very different from the 10th running back, and the first wide receiver is going to score a lot more in every regard than your 10th receiver. So you can easily punt quarterbacks later, and the difference between uh, a good quarterback and a great quarterback is not that much. With Pokemon, the Mega is going to be your most powerful Pokemon on your team. Even if you're getting a first pick like Basculegion, you're still going to be excited about your Mega, and you should build around them. That being said, you don't want to be spending your draft capital on Megas when there are so few true premium picks that are not mega. There are lots of good megas. If you have the 30th best mega, you're still looking at something like Glamora. Like you're still set, and you can easily get a second mega if that mega has a weakness. So let's get through it. For anybody who's not familiar, this is a prep doc. Uh, shout outs to Wacka. If you're not using one of these when you're drafting, I would suggest doing so, but I'm just using it as a place to hold my thoughts. With Mega Floette, I think Mega Floette is not necessarily the strongest Mega, but one that you can easily take with the first pick. If you're taking a strong fairy, you're going to want a strong ground type, such as I have here Mega Garchomp or Mega Excadrill. Garchomp would be the best choice, but he should not make it back around to you for the second pick. And you're going to want a fire type. So in VGC, we'll often see Mega Floette paired with Charizard, for example. The best pairings, as far as I'm concerned, especially for budget, are Tauros, Blaze, and Infernape. And I'm going to explain both of them. With Tauros Blaze, it provides you Intimidate, which when you have an incredibly high special defense, Intimidate is particularly useful for Floette. With a fighting and fire type, you are very good at hitting steals. Even if it's a steel ghost, for example, you can just use fire instead of your fighting type. And in the case of Tauros in particular, he is really hard to make not do damage. You can't Will-O-Wisp him. If you try and Reflect or Light Screen, which is one of the few ways you can stop Floette, he has Raging Bull. You can cover for Intimidate through other ways, but also if you're just generally special, which Floette leads you that direction. Maybe Intimidate's not crippling to your team. Infernape, is one of the fastest fake out Pokemon at 108, and that guarantees that you get fake out. A line of Mega Floette and Infernape results in Infernape threatening a fake out, Floette doing half their health, Floette doing half their health again, whatever's on the board has died, and you're generally in a good spot. In regards to ground types, I think you just need to be conscious that ground types are difficult to find at a reasonable price. If you are the first pick and you take Mega Floette and you don't get Mega Garchomp on the 2-3 wheel, everything I'm saying here is in regards to like a 12-man draft. It might differ with your personal draft if it's 10 or 14 or 16. But Mega Garchomp is really the only ground type I'd be excited about in that second, third pick whale. If you're getting to 4 or 5, I mean, I'd be excited about Mamoswine, but he might not be there. Just make sure, feel free to like go out of your way to get a ground type. Don't end your draft with like Diggersby or something. In regards to cheap picks, Taurus Paldea does a lot of the same things as Taurus Blaze, but you still have that fighting type and you still have that Intimidate. Simisear is just a really bad Infernape, but it's a fast fake out and a Firemon. And then consider getting a cheap Pheromon. I have marked here Aromatisse because she does a lot of things that other Pokemon don't do with Aromavale and Trick Room. Alcremie is incredibly threatening if you do bring it, and those fairy types get to use your fairy aura. Mega Floette overall is very easy to build around. You do need to get you do have like a very precise game plan when you get Mega Floette, but it's a bit flowcharty and you can make it work no matter what you get drawn. Mega Charizard, however, is a bit of a freeform. It's really nice. If you take Mega Charizard first, you know in the future that you can grab a Chlorophyll Pokemon. You can grab a mediocre Fire Pokemon, so you can run Scarf Emboar next to Charizard and do a lot of damage. Really, in the same way that Charizard can show up in almost every team in VGC, you're not restricted in how you draft because Sun doesn't really require much. I do have 3 Pokemon here, particularly marked though. You do probably want a decent Tailwind. I don't think you need the most premium Tailwind, but if you do get the offer to get Aerodactyl or Mega Aerodactyl, it's not a terrible thing. You're just going to be fighting the typing of having 2 flying types very early in your draft, but you can work around that. You can get Lightning Rod or something, ground types to help yourself through that situation. One Pokemon that I think works incredibly well with Charizard is Hydreigon. It provides you that Tailwind, but just typing wise, everything that Charizard is weak to, Hydreigon resists most of it and is not weak to rock despite being a Tailwinder. And having a flying and a levitate Pokemon makes Earthquake really strong if you have any other Pokemon that's able to do that. One thing you do want to consider with Charizard is Wide Guard. Aerodactyl would provide that, but I've marked here Swampert. With Swampert, his only weakness is Grass type, and if you're starting your draft off with Charizard and Hydreigon or Charizard and Aerodactyl, if you're tossing more fire Pokemon, maybe even like a Typhlosion, for example, Swampert isn't going to see very many grass moves, and there isn't much grass coverage that is outside a grass type Pokemon. Basically, just don't bring it when you see Sinistcha and you're fine. Again, a really good Mega, and if you're starting your draft with Mega Charizard, I have no concerns. Let's get into some that I do have concerns about. Actually, there's three. There's 3 good Megas in this world. Metagross. Metagross is unique in that it is one of the few premium Megas that is physically strong, and that makes whatever you do with your second pick lead you more down the path that you're going to take than taking Metagross. Metagross is a little bit of a I'm waiting to see how this draft is going to go. Uh, Metagross is really nice with the support Pokemon. If you're getting Incineroar, Sinistcha, Sneasler, or Grimmsnarl as your second pick, you're in a good spot. But it also plays well with other friends. So Pelipper If it's still available while you get your second pick, feel free to go into Rain. Metagross already does that in VGC, and it's nice to like dampen the fire type Pokemon. If you go Melodic, you're starting off with a Pokemon that has Clear Body and a Pokemon that has Competitive. You can really lean into a physical team. For example, like maybe grabbing something that has Howl, just that level of physical because they're not going to be able to intimidate you uh, without consequence. Hydreigon again is a Pokemon that just matches up well with the weaknesses of Metagross. Since you resist fire, you're immune to ground, and you resist uh, ghost and dark. So definitely a Pokemon that just sits really well next to Metagross, and you can Tailwind next to that 110 speed and just be fast in everything in the world. Metagross leaves you very open because you're typically going to be playing it as a 3 move, and it has a Gen 3 move pool, so it has every coverage move in the world, plus Protect, but it does also have things like Explosion or Cosmic Power. You can do things with Metagross, but really it just leaves you in a good position. Now there's Pokemon that I want to complain about. This is Gengar. Gengar is often 20 points on your board, and I don't think it's wrong to have it be that way. There's a bug on my wall. Die bug. Bugs are weak to everything. Uh, because Gengar is really miserable to play against. I think people fall into the trap of wanting to be a Perish Song team. One, Perish Song is really hard to play. It's really hard to build correctly. This is not a situation where we have multiple good Perish Songers. So you are really reliant on Gengar if that's a way that you want to go. That being said, Shadow Tag is really broken and Gengar has 170 special attack. You are not beholden to Perish Song at all. The issue I have with Gengar is it is really limited in which support Pokemon it wants. So your answers are it really wants Incineroar, but if you're taking Gengar early in the first round, you're going to have to ask yourself, am I going to be okay with not getting Incineroar? The answer is you probably can be if you're getting Scrafty or perhaps Mega Scrafty, but then are you doing that with your third pick? Or are you having to wait till your fourth pick, which is way down the road? Especially if you're picking Gengar in, like, say, the fourth pick of the draft. Uh, the gap between your third pick and your fourth pick is wide. Additionally, I don't think Gengar has that many Pokemon that it plays well with. I really like Ninetales Alola. There was a small part in VGC where Ninetales was paired with Mega Gengar. Just having Aurora Veil is really good, both with Gengar, but also just with the sort of Pokemon that you would take on a Gengar team. Obviously, feel free to take Politoed. It knows Perish Song, so you can threaten it more, but really just starting a Snow build or starting a Rain build is a good pairing with Gengar. That being said, I really don't suggest Gengar as a first pick. It is really going to be difficult for you to make a cohesive plan, and it's very easy for your draft to fall apart. On the opposite side of Pokemon that I don't care for, it's Megastaraptor. Here's the actual Patrick Mahomes. It's, you know, maybe the best Pokemon in VGC, but it's not the best in draft. And it's actually a lot worse in draft than you think. Megastaraptor is obviously broken, just close combat, making you get a bulk up and 120 stab is ridiculous. The issue with Staraptor is against any ball knowing player, they are going to find ways to stop you. You do have, 5 weaknesses. You do have a weakness to swagger. They can, shrink you -2 and confuse you at 100% accuracy, especially if that's on a Pokemon that is Prankster, like Sableye. It's just, you can't bring Mega Staraptor very easily, or maybe you have to get really tricksy about when you Mega. I do like the Pokemon that Mega Staraptor pairs with, but they're actually Pokemon that are hard to get if you're picking Mega Staraptor in the first pick. Taking Sinistcha or taking Garchomp, obviously very good with Staraptor uh, for different reasons, but I would suggest picking them first and then finding out if you end up with a Mega Staraptor. You can do cheeky stuff like Whimsicott and Mega Staraptor, but at that point you're over indexing as far as I'm concerned. Like you're committing too much to Mega Staraptor when it can't necessarily even be your only Mega type Pokemon, which if you're doing a Mega pick with your first pick is concerning as a sentence. One of the big reasons I do like Staraptor is Tyranitar and just sand in general are really hard to find a path into. Tyranitar, for example, like going into sand might be something you do when your draft gets completely blown up. For example, if you took Gengar and you didn't get Incineroar, but Staraptor actually just plays well with Tyranitar and Excadrill. So if you're starting a draft with something like Sinistcha, Mega Staraptor, Tyranitar, Excadrill, some fairy type like Clefable, great, love it, go for it. But I do think you're a bit weak to everything. Uh, I would also suggest again one of these Aromavale Pokemon. Aromatisse and Alcremie, I think, are just generally good Pokemon to have on your team at price if they're like, 5 points on the board. They're just already good enough to be on your team. But Aromavale helps solve a lot of the issues that Staraptor has because you don't want to be Encored. You don't want to be taunted if you're trying to do uh, like anything with Staraptor because you're going to be needing to do things like protect in the face of things. And if you try and do that in front of something that can both swagger you and fake out you and encore you, you're going to want to have something like Aromatisse in the back. Moving on to a Pokemon that I do like is Blastoise. I love Blastoise. I think Blastoise is one of the best draft Pokemon in the VGC. I mean, it's still doing very well, right? But in draft, you have a fake out type Pokemon that can do things like Life Do. If you want to be very supporty, you can do Shell Smash. Why does it make you sound like Sean Connery? You can Shell Smash and be a full carry. You can lean into either Trick Room or Tailwind and just do Water Spouts. There's a lot of different ways that you can play with Master Blastoise, Mega Blastoise, and be successful. And you can get it cheaper than you can, for example, Staraptor, but Mega Blastoise is usually a point or two cheaper. Again, the concern I have with Mega Blastoise is it plays so well with Sinistcha that I would want to pick Sinistcha first. And or maybe for a graph. Also, you can lean that way with Trick Room, right? If you pick Sinistcha and you get sniped on Mega Blastoise, you do not care. You can run Staraptor. We've already mentioned it. You can run Delphox, who also has the ability to click Nasty Plot, and we've seen that combo. At Redirection plus Delphox or Redirection plus Blastoise do very similar things. You can take Mega Kangaskhan or Mega Raichu, these generically good Megas, and be just fine. You can also lean into Trick Room. If your Mega Blastoise has been stolen from you, go ruin everybody's day and play Mega Mawile. Disgusting Pokemon, and there's only going to be Sinistcha and Farigiraf players who are starting Trick Room early, and you don't necessarily want either of them for Trick Room. They just happen to be good Trick Roomers. So you can get Mega Mawile quite late in the draft. Just if you see anybody pick up a Trick Room setter, go grab her before it's too late. Simple enough. Uh, as much as I love Mega Blastoise, and if it wasn't for the lessons that I've learned, that one, it may well be available, and two, you'd be happier with Sinistcha plus anything. And if you get sniped off Mega Blastoise, it's not that bad. Really, and this is a strong point I want to make, Sinistcha is one of those Pokemon that you can justify picking early. And this is a bit weird, by the way. With picking Sinistcha, it's a support Pokemon, and I kind of don't like the idea of picking a support Pokemon first. Generally, it doesn't help you build towards the rest of your team. It doesn't help you with your core, but Sinistra is so good with redirection and healing that it plays well with so many things that it does not lead you in any direction, and it is crucial and irreplaceable in a lot of different builds that you could be doing. For Graph too, there's a lot of Pokemon that really like Armored Tail, and it's why Serena goes so early too. On the other side, this tab says Mega Delphox, but it is a lie. This is a Garchomp tab. Mega Delphox, really powerful, but Garchomp, really powerful, and plays well with friends. If you're taking Garchomp, it is the Pokemon that you want most with your powerful fairy types, if it's Mega Gardevoir or Sylveon. If you're taking Mega Staraptor, you very much want a Garchomp. If you're going into Sand, Garchomp's great. You feel free to Sandveil or Mega Garchomp. If you're going into Electros, fantastic electric moves next to a ground type, Disquake sort of stuff, brilliant. Delphox has Levitate. Like, you want to take the Garchomp first, and then figure out where you're going to go. If that doesn't make sense to you, I don't know what is. Obviously, with something like Garchomp, it does have a 4x weakness. You're going to be building around that. Delphox is the only thing that I have on the screen that resists ice, so maybe it is the best pairing with Garchomp, but don't pick Delphox first and then be really sad when the Garchomp gets taken. And then you're like, okay, now I'm stretching for a ground type while I also need other things because Delphox needs a few friends. Let's see what this last tab is. Mega Frostlass. Uh, Mega Frostlass is a generically good Pokemon. I'm not necessarily sure that it belongs at 19 points. I think Mega Frostlass might be a little bit overpriced on some boards. But if you're picking one of the generically good Pokemon, Basculegion, I think probably a top 3 on the board, I think is the best Pokemon if you're not grabbing a Mega. If you're not starting your draft with Basculegion, Charizard Y, or Floette, it better be because something is on heavy sale somewhere. Sneasler, a bit one-dimensional, but the fastest fake out in the West, and an incredibly helpful typing in a world that has no good fighting types and no good poison types. Sneasler is really nice for your build. King Gambit, really good. And if you're taking these Pokemon and you're able to get 2 of these sort of types of Pokemon, or you get one of these Pokemon and then one of the premium support Pokemon like Incineroar, Grimmsnarl, you have a really easy draft. You just need to start looking at your type chart, and you can come back to something like Mega Frostlass late in the draft. You can get a Mega Gardevoir late in the draft, and you don't have to worry about them because everybody else has already got their Mega. You just need to get them before they want to get their second Mega. And if they started the draft off with Mega Floette, they're not going to have the points to pick up Mega Frostlass. You can literally look at your opponents and go, half of you don't want Mega Frostlass, half of you can't afford Mega Frostlass. I'll take her with pick 7. Brilliant. Just to go through the remaining top picks. So I mentioned Basculegion, Sneasler, and Gambit. I think those 3 are 3 of the best picks that you can possibly take, and I would definitely consider them over most megas. I do think that Garchomp and Sinistcha leave you in a easier place to draft from than taking, for example, King Gambit and immediately starting off with a 4x weakness. But it's incredibly powerful and it leaves you in a good place. In regards to premium support Pokemon, Incineroar is generally going further back in the draft consistently than his reputation would say. There's still no Covert Cloak. There's still no uh, Clear Amulet. You're still fake outing and intimidating every single Pokemon that you see, except for except for the ones you can't. So Incineroar is still really good. Whimsicott's a Pokemon that I really don't like when it's picked in the first round. I think it belongs at 19 points. It is one of the best Pokemon in the game, but it's that support thing that I mentioned. One thing I haven't mentioned, and this is the third thing, you can either draft a Mega, you can either draft a non-Mega, or you can draft something that says Rain on it. Archaludon, Pelipper, Polytoad, Mega Swampert. There's so many different megas that work with rain. Even something like Caesar, who just appreciates the rain to block its 4x weakness from killing it. You got Raichu, you got Dragonite, you got Starmie, you got there's too many Meganium. You got so many things that can go with rain that I think picking up Archaludon and then getting whatever rain setter is left, including Sableye, great. For a giraffe, I love the Pokemon. Early second round, leave yourself the ability to get one of those premium trick room things, but really you're just picking it because it has Armor Tail and it's a disgusting Pokemon that for some reason also has 110 special attack. Mousehold is one of those Pokemon that's incredibly wheel shaped. I don't necessarily know if you should be going Mousehold Annihilate, for example, but I really do like Mousehold, and it often drops further back because it doesn't immediately pair with anything too strongly. But if you end up with Mousehold instead of Sinistcha in your Blastoise team, great. Pelipper is one Pokemon that I think probably can go in the first round at this point. Rain is so easy to draft and so easy to play relative to everything else that you could be doing that just getting the Rain Setter and then taking whatever is left for you, you're still going to make a good team. Even if other people are competing for Rain, and they probably shouldn't because you're at this point putting a large stamp that you are competing for Rain and they will have trouble getting their picks. Go Rain. The only reason I don't go Rain more is because I'm bored of it. I've drafted Rain so many times in this year, basically. Grimmsnarl, again, one of those premium support Pokemon. Uh, if you're reaching that point where you already feel good about your draft, Sylveon and Goldengo are just beat sticks, but they are very powerful beat sticks. And I think if you're looking for a typing pairing with Fairy or Steel, Sylveon's a Pokemon that I think should be taken earlier than you expect. Again, it does what a Mega does, which is a ton of damage, but you don't have to use your Mega slot for it. Goldengo does a ton of damage in a way that nobody else can do because Make It Rain is a stupid move. Go for it. These Pokemon are Megas without having to do Mega, and there are a lot of those. If you don't get two or the three of these Pokemon that I've mentioned, I think you have a weaker team, and the reason you wouldn't get two or three of these Pokemon that I've mentioned would be because you got distracted by a Mega. You picked Mega Delphox in the first round. You didn't get Garchomp. You're wondering what the heck's going on. You take Sylveon, and by the third pick, your draft is weird, and you're now having to steer basically. So just to go through and recap, because I think it's important, don't take a Mega early. If you do, make sure it's one of like those three really good ones. If you don't know what you're doing, just draft Rain. Don't draft Swampert. Draft Rain. Um, Figure out which Megas or which Pokemon can leave you open, and see if you can get away with taking a Mega really late in the draft. If you have a game plan and you're looking at a 15-point Pokemon, or even less potentially, like if you want to do Pyroar plus Ninetales, I think that is an incredibly potent combo and it's way cheaper. But you can look at the board and go, nobody's going to take my Pyroar from me. I'll take it in the fourth round, take my Ninetales in the fifth round, and I'm set. And you've spent the first three picks, grabbing your Sneasler, grabbing your Mousehold, grabbing all these broken things that are irreplaceable while you're knowing that you have these little combos that you can do. If you want to be the Mega Halucha guy, go for it. If you want to be the Scovillain guy, go for it. Like, there's still plenty of Megas without having a Mega that is good in VGC.